Hi, everybody. I'm here with the Miserable Liberal and Ron Placone. Hello.
I'm miserable.
Howdy, howdy. I'm happy.
So there's a story from England that's being misreported in the United States. It's about a baby named Charlie Gard. So very quickly, the baby was born with a genetic birth defect, a certain condition that would deteriorate the baby's brain and neural and muscular function, so it couldn't breathe or eat without a feeding tube or a respirator. And it was a progressive condition. It was going to degenerate the brain. And so what happened was they had the hospital recommended palliative care for the baby, meaning just go make it comfortable while it dies. Don't try to keep it alive, because there's no cure for this, and this is a horrible thing for this situation for this baby to be in. It's not good to be alive in that situation. So there was a New York doctor who said that they could have experimental treatment. So they crowdfunded money, 1.2 million pounds. And they were going to, but what happens in this situation, this is from the Telegraph, who is Charlie Gard, what is his disease he suffered from, and what's happening in the court case. They say doctors at Gosh, that's the children's hospital that they took the baby to, concluded that the experimental treatment, which is not designed to be curative, would not improve Charlie's quality of life. So when parents do not agree about a child's future treatment, it is standard legal practice to ask the courts to make a decision. That's what happened in the Charlie Gard case. So I'll give you this is their timeline. I don't know if that's bright enough to see. I'll tell you what it says.
So the parents, just to be clear here, the parents wanted them to do the experimental procedure.
They wanted to take the baby to New York.
Okay.
For experimental treatment, or bring that doctor to England to do the experimental treatment.
Okay, gotcha.
The children's hospital said no, that it's not curative, even if this treatment, it's not curative. And I'll get to exactly what they said in a second. But on May 3rd, Charlie's parents asked the Court of Appeal judges to consider their case, right? Because the hospital said no. After analyzing the case, 3 Court of Appeal judges dismissed the couple's appeal 2 days later. Charlie's parents then lost their fight in the Supreme Court, so they appealed it to the Supreme Court. So now 2 courts have ruled against the parents and in favor of the children's doctors. Charlie's mother broke down in tears and screamed as justice announced a decision and was led from the court by lawyers. So, in fact, the court ruled, it said there is significant harm if what the parents want for Charlie comes into effect. The significant harm is a condition of existence which is offering the child no benefit. So that sounds like legalese for the condition of existence, meaning the best you're going to give this baby is not a cure, but just to keep it alive in a horrible condition.
Yeah, like it sounds like it's not even really providing comfort. Like it's not easing. It's just going to keep the infant alive.
It's going to keep it breathing.
Yeah.
She added, it is inhuman to permit that condition to continue. So that's why they wouldn't allow this experimental treatment. It wasn't curative. It's just experimental. And it would be inhuman to let the baby suffer like that, just to keep it alive. That's what I'm... So here's one more timeline. On Tuesday, on June 27th, European court judges refused to intervene. So they tried to take it to a European court. The European court judges refused to intervene. A Great Ormond Street spokesman said the European court decision marked the end of a difficult process. She said there would be no rush to change Charlie's care, and she said there would be careful planning and discussion. On July 10th, Charlie's parents returned to the High Court and asked Mr. Justice Francis to carry out a fresh analysis of the case. Mr. Justice Francis gives them less than 48 hours to prove an experimental treatment works. And then on July 24th, Charlie's parents withdraw their request to change the original court order. And it concludes by saying, Miss Yates and Mr. Gard have now acknowledged that the therapy could not help their son get better. Their lawyer, Grant Armstrong, told the court that the delay in offering treatment to Charlie had meant he had no prospect of getting better, because the disease kept degenerating the baby's brain. while they were waiting for these court decisions and blah. And so now it's just the baby was too far gone for even this experimental thing to even do whatever they said it was going to do. So now you know the background of that case. It's a tragic case. But it's just a case of a baby was born with an incurable disease, and it was better to take it off a ventilator because there was no cure, no prospect of it getting better, and to keep it alive in that condition was inhuman. So that makes sense, right? So you see,
it made it sound, I mean, based on everything that we've shown so far, it made it sound like there was no chance at quality of life,
right,
for this baby under any.
So now this is being misreported, of course, in the West. People who are tools of corporations and healthcare and big pharma are reporting this as, see, you don't want the government to have control of your healthcare. They let that baby die. So now that you know the story, you know that that's bullshit. So now let's watch Jake Tapper asked this question to Chuck Schumer in the context of talking about healthcare in America. First of all, watch the question, and second of all, watch the answer. The answer is even more jaw-dropping.
The last several weeks, Senator, it has to do with the young baby in England, Charlie Gard, who the government there has, and the board of doctors have not allowed him to have the treatment that the family has wanted. There are people in this country who see the Charlie Gard situation and say, that's what happens when government takes control of health care. That's obviously not the situation we have in the United States, but that's their fear about single payer or other national forms of health care. What's your take on the Charlie Gard story? Yeah, go.
So Jake Tapper, who, I think I like personally, and he's often funny, which is what I like about Jake Tapper. He has a good sense of humor, but what he's doing there is what lots of news people do. Instead of debunking a bullshit argument, they will use their news platform to repeat and forward a bullshit argument. Instead of debunking it and then framing the question correctly, you could say, hey, of course, now there's people here who are in the United States who are disingenuously using this Charlie Gard case to dismiss single-payer health care or to scare people or to fearmonger about it, and which is disgusting and a misuse of this case to exploit this baby to further corporatism in America. So how do you get the point across that these two, that would maybe be one question.
Well, and it would still be an objective observation.
Yes.
To say that's a false equivalency.
Yes.
Even if you aren't for single payer or whatever, you can still point out, well, that's a false equivalency, that this has nothing to do with single payer or anything like that.
Ron, he even kind of acknowledges that in his question. He goes, even though that's not the situation here in the United States, then why are you fucking bringing it up? And if you bring it up, why don't you just dismiss it? Of course, people are trying to use this Charlie Gard case. Of course, that has nothing to do with the United States. Of course, that's a red herring. That's what that's what I want my newsmen to do. I don't want my newsmen to take it they know is a stupid idea that's wrong on the facts and then repeat it. You're supposed to debunk it. You're not supposed to fucking give it a platform and repeat it like it's a legitimate question. And that's not just, I'm not just picking on Jake Tapper, even though he's the one doing it in this situation. They all do that. And that's why news sucks. And that's why half the country doesn't believe in climate change. This is why. And this is why I first started watching Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks, because Cenk would reframe the arguments correctly, and he would point out bullshit like this. Now I'm doing it. Because once you get wise to it, you see it all over the place. Let's listen to this question again. And then,
one last question.
And then listen to Chuck's answer. His answer is even more stunning.
This is in the news in the last several weeks, Senator. It has to do with the young baby in England, Charlie Gard, who the government there has, and the board of doctors have not allowed him to have the treatment that the family has wanted. There are people in this country who see the Charlie Gard situation and say, that's what happens when government takes control of health care. That's obviously not the situation we have in the United States, but that's their fear about single payer or other national forms of health.
That's obviously not the situation, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. I'm going to push this bullshit talking point that should have been debunked by my news station. But again, I'm going to give it a platform. I'm going to repeat it to you, and I'm going to give it to a guy in a remote right now in his ear standing in a park somewhere and ask him to debunk it. Because if I debunk it, it might turn off some of our right-wing viewers. That's what I think in my head. That's what my producers tell me. That's what Jeff Zucker tells us. Is that his name, Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
So here's Chuck's answer.
What's your take on the Charlie Gard story? Go, please.
Well, first, the American people sure don't want the insurance companies and the big, powerful interests to control their health care. That's why.
That's why what? That's why you guys introduced a plan to let health insurance companies and big pharma control their health care. That's why you guys had to defend it against the Trump administration. That's why you guys are doing a victory lap just the other day because you protected this bullshit right-wing corporate health care policy invented by the Heritage Foundation, first implemented by Mitt Romney, then by Barack Obama.
That's why, as of today, single-payer Medicare for all is on the Democratic platform. Am I right? Am I right? Is that what he says?
That's exactly what he should say. Nobody wants that health insurance or big pharma to make decisions. That's why we're fighting for single-payer. That's not what he said. Did you hear what he said? He turned it into... First of all, he's just lying. You guys do want health insurance companies and big pharma to make the decisions. Of course you do. That's why you guys passed the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. That's why. If you didn't want that to happen, you would have fought for a public option. You would have fought for single payer. You would have fought for Medicare for all. But you didn't. You fought for a right-wing health care plan, which is with no cost controls, which is just a giveaway to health insurance companies and big pharma, which also leaves 30 million people uninsured. So that, I just want to just reach through the TV screen and scream at the top of my lungs in both their faces. That's what it makes me do. It makes me just want to go, ah! You know you're full of shit, don't you? And I know you know you're full of shit. And I know you know you know. We could do this for a while. So let's listen to Chuck one more time.
Go, please.
Well, first, the American people sure don't want the insurance companies and the big, powerful interests to control their health care. That's why
we are pushing single-payer Medicare for all.
Fingers crossed.
But you're not. What is he going to say?
Care is so unpopular. They want a good system.
That's why Trump care is so unpopular? Obamacare is the exact same thing. It puts the decision-making power in the hands of insurance companies and big pharma. So he's pretending they're not. He's pretending that they're fighting for a single-payer system when they're fighting for a corporate takeover of healthcare. I mean, not a takeover, but a keepover. Am I wrong about this, Ron?
I think that the people do not want vanilla soft serve ice cream, and that's why Butterfinger blizzards are so unpopular, but Oreo blizzards no one has a problem with.
Ha!
Works, and that's what we're looking at. On the Charlie Gard situation, again, I don't know all the details in England, but you know, I think if people want to be able to help a child that's dying, they should be allowed to do it.
Again, totally misreading the situation. It's not okay to treat a baby inhumanely just because you want to. And that's why 3 courts agreed. 3. So,
yeah, I'm pretty sure if this in any way actually helped the baby,
they would have allowed
one of the 3 courts. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
It seems odd to think that they wouldn't.
Right. Didn't even seem like it was a tough decision for those courts.
Right.
So there's how CNN reported the Charlie Gard story and how they conflated 2 issues together, single payer and Charlie Gard, how that's a bullshit thought up, I'm sure, in the corporate think tank. And then what happens? Does CNN debunk it? No, they fucking repeat it. Jake Tapper then goes on his news show and repeats it. That happens all the time. It's not just this one instance. It's not just Jake Tapper. It's all of them all the time. They can't help but repeat horrible right-wing ideas or left-wing, whatever it is.
Well, I don't want to do a spoiler here, but I have a feeling when Chuck Schumer made the bogus implication that insurance companies aren't involved with the Affordable Care Act, they are. But I think when he did that, Jake Tapper didn't call that out.
No. By the way, no.
No?
Did not
Okay.
call that out.
All right.
Jake Tapper didn't go, what are you talking about? That's what you guys just instituted when you had complete control of government. You just instituted a system that left all the decisions up to health insurance companies and big pharma. What are you talking about? That's what you guys just fought to save. You don't have a public option in there. You didn't save Medicare for all or single payer. You guys just saved a bullshit right-wing healthcare plan, which is nothing but a giveaway to health insurance companies and big pharma. No. Did Jake Tapper say that? No. No, that'd be impolite. That's not allowed. You're not allowed to say that because that would offend their donors. It would offend Chuck Schumer's donors and CNN's advertisers, which is big pharma. So there you go. And that's how the CNN reported the Charlie Gard story, by confusing the issue, forwarding a bullshit talking point that is completely groundless, doesn't even apply, and conflating the two and then serving it up to a bought politician. And then when the bought politician completely bullshits back, he lets it go. And you wonder why people get their news from YouTube. Hey, everybody, the next live Jimmy Dore show is August 16th. That's a Wednesday, new time, 9 p.m. 9 p.m. show, August 16th in Burbank, California. Get your tickets right there or at jimmydorecomedy.com.